Now, what this video is all about is it's about some of the various different types of questions that you can ask your client. It's really interesting actually when you first become a coach or you first start learning about coaching. And one of the typical misconceptions is the idea of how could I possibly charge somebody money just by having a conversation with them. But of course, it's so much more than just a conversation. When you're with one of your friends and you're talking about what you've done that day, and maybe you're even talking about the parts of your day that went good and the parts of your day that were not so good and what you hope to achieve next week, or maybe your New Year's resolutions, that's a conversation, right? Now, a coaching session is much more than just a conversation, even though if your coaching session is being delivered very skillfully, it will feel like a conversation. But it's not just a conversation, it's all about how you construct your questions in such a way that your client is having moments of realization, that your client is having moments of breakthrough, that your client is allowing their perspective to be shifted. That is a coaching conversation. And as we know, one of the most powerful ways that we're able to deliver those kind of breakthrough moments for our clients is through asking questions. But once again, much like how a coaching conversation isn't just a conversation, a coach's questions are not just questions. They are questions that are constructed in a very, very specific way for very specific reasons. So what I'm going to be doing over these next two videos is I'm going to be introducing you to some of the different types of questions that you can ask your clients. And what I want you to do is, as you're listening to these two videos, I want you to really start to think about how you can incorporate some of these questions into what it is you do. I want you to think about when and where you will be able to ask some of these questions the next time you're coaching one of your clients. Now, the first type of question that we're going to talk about is what is known as a rapport building question. Now, these are very simple, but they're very, very useful when it comes to the entire coaching process. Building rapport with your client is an extremely vital part of the whole process, because when you have rapport with somebody, you have an excellent exchange of energy. When you're in rapport with your client, they know that you care about them. They know that you care about what it is they're saying. They know that you care about what it is that is meaningful to them, what it is they want to achieve, what it is they're struggling with. And so because of that, rapport is very, very vital. So rapport building questions are very simple in terms of, what did you do last week? How are your family? That test you took, how did that go? That holiday you went on, tell me more about that. You remember you were telling me about your siblings, you remember you were telling me about your children, tell me more about them, I want to get to know you. Rapport building questions, quite simply, are questions where there is no other agenda apart from simply wanting to build rapport with your client, wanting to get to know them, wanting them to feel more comfortable in your presence. Rapport building questions need to be used, especially at the start of a coaching session, so that you put yourself in a position where the client understands that you are there for them. That's a very important position you need to put yourself in, because we don't want the client to ever feel like this is simply a business exchange. We want them to feel and know that you genuinely care about them as an individual. So try to experiment with asking some rapport building questions just simply for the sake of building rapport. The second type of question I want to talk to you about is quite possibly the most used type of question when it comes to a coaching conversation. That's an open question. Open questions are vital. We build our entire businesses upon the shoulders of open questions. The best way of explaining what an open question is explaining what a closed question is. A closed question is a question that only yields a yes or no answer. An open question is a question that you cannot answer with yes or no. So for instance, why was this session powerful for you today? Now think about that for a moment. That question is so vastly different to, was this coaching session powerful for you today? If I sat in front of my client and I said to them, was this coaching session powerful for you today? They could say yes or no. But if I ask them how was this coaching session powerful for you today? They cannot say yes or no because it's not a yes/no question. They have to give me more details. So that's only one example, of course, but use as many open questions as you possibly can within your coaching sessions because it continues the conversation. It pushes the conversation in a direction where your client must open up. They must explain to you what it is they're thinking. So always be using open questions and try to avoid closed yes/no questions. The third type of question that I want you to be aware of is known as a clarifying question. Now, the reason that we ask clarifying questions to our clients is because we want to relay back to them something in which they have said, which we think is important. So to give you an example, a clarifying question may be when I say to my client, have I heard this right? Did I understand this? You said to me that when you go to work, you feel like you're being compressed. You said to me that in your current relationship, you feel that you cannot be yourself and express yourself. Is that right? Did I hear that right? Did I understand that correctly? Now, the reason why a clarifying question is so brilliant is because it puts you in a position where you can relay information back to your client by asking them a question and not making a statement. By asking the question and asking them to clarify what it is they've said, you're putting them in a position where they have to rethink about the information they've given to you, and therefore they gain a greater understanding over what it is they've said. The final question I want to tell you about during this first part of this two-part video is known as a scale question. Now, I use scale questions on a constant basis with my clients. An example of a scale question is something along the lines of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how unhappy do you feel in your current job? On a scale of 1 to 10, how free are you in your current relationship? Or, without giving a number, you could say to them, tell me, how happy do you feel in your current relationship? If you were to scale it, if you were to rank it, if you were to try to put a number on it. So you don't always have to offer the whole on a scale of 1 to 10 thing, but it is actually a very useful, effective, and simple way of getting your clients to understand where they currently sit. The reason why scale questions are so important is because we can track our progress. That's one of the most vital parts of the coaching journey. We can track the progress of our clients by understanding where they started to where they are now. Another reason why scale questions are so important is because it allows our clients to understand that they're working towards a certain level. Without scale questions, our clients can find themselves in a position where they simply feel happy or unhappy. They feel free or they feel trapped. They feel lost or they feel expressive. But without scaling, without measuring how much somebody does feel one of those emotions, we cannot ever quite understand whether or not our clients are making progress. So this has been part 1 of a 2-part video about the type of questions that we ask our clients. We've looked at rapport building questions, open questions, clarifying questions, and scale questions. Next time, for part 2, I'm going to focus first and foremost on something known as solution-focused questions.